Now, usually when I do a double review, I watch both episodes back to back and then I get up here and talk about it. But given that the newest episode hasn't come out yet due to the changing of times, because originally when this show started up, it actually was a week ahead of the Japanese broadcast, but now I guess it's kind of reverting back to a more status quo there. So I'm actually watching episode 8 before the newest episode comes out, hence why they're kind of separated into chunks. So if you're only interested in one, clearly you can skip around, but I have to say, I heard nothing about last week's episode, and I mean, I've had questions like, hey, where's the review? But I went into this episode completely blind, and I'm really thankful for that, because there was some interesting information revealed on top of being just action-packed and incredibly engaging. Not only did a new Eden get born from the nun of all people, the sister, right, Gil, and that makes so much sense, and I remember, I think it was like 3 weeks ago, give or take, I was discussing on the channel about how people were asking me, hey, do you think there's going to be an importance to why the sister is relevant? Because clearly, you know, she had this horrible thing happen to her, and she's been a perspective of basically a victim, a prisoner. They gotta be doing something. And my thought was maybe, but also it could just be that, yeah, something crazy and shocking happened to her, so we're keeping our perspective on her simply because. Maybe it's just to show us that shock things aren't just there to be edgy, but rather to make it like we get to see the lasting consequences. And the fact that they actually gave her, basically she's the reason, all things considered. I mean, there was all these different conditions that got met during this war, but it really was her wish, then her thoughts that kind of pushed it through, and someone who looks identical to her was born with the new Eden powers, and she has no knowledge of it. It's kind of crazy, and it was nice to see certain characters be like, you know, Prontia's like, what the hell can you teleport to? Like, what's going on? Oh wait, it's just someone who looks like her, and we get to confirmation their name's Gil, which I don't think we've heard up until that point. I mean, they didn't need to do that. I was honestly content with her just being a human character who had shitty things done, and even in the face of so much death and carnage, she kept to her beliefs. And those beliefs are the reason why we got a new character. So that's incredibly interesting, and I especially loved her conversation with the dying emperor, where she was saying, even though, you know, all these crazy things are happening, you clearly valued the lives of the prisoners, and you didn't go all out when you easily could. Might have saved your life, and instead you took the prisoners' lives into account. It was interesting to see how no matter what happened and what was thrown at her, she continued to believe in these things. And honestly, I think she's been an underdog of the show, because even before this episode, I think she's been a character that's been relevant enough without needing to have super important things attached to her. So to have that extra oomph, I think it's going to be interesting to see where the last few episodes will go with, you know, her Eden counterpart and even herself as her human form. Now, I will say, Rin was probably my favorite part of this episode, because there's been a lot of mystery with this old man, robot, like what the hell's going on? Is he human? Is he demon? Like what is actually happening? And they set it up to be her grandfather. Is it actually? It's hard to say. It almost feels like maybe the memories, or at least part of the memories and part of the form, was created based on the grandfather. Is it actually? I have no idea, and that's what has me really excited about the next episode I'm about to review in this video. And I'm really excited to see, because we've never seen her just in her current situation, beating the shit out of Hayato, break down and cry, drop her guard, and almost get herself killed. Tangly-haired woman almost killed her. She not only cut her in half, she had one arm, a torso, and a head. Had she not got serious there, she would have died. And that's something that I don't think many people would have expected walking into an episode like this. Because, yeah, her defense isn't the greatest, and she definitely got kind of bullshitted around, because she was made to believe that the puppets were actually the creators behind this web, and she did a pretty cool thing where she just wound them all up and completely obliterated them. But still, this man has so much mysteries about him, and seemingly was blown the hell apart and destroyed. But if he's really a robot, then that means there could be duplicates, right? Or the memory is stored on a computer somewhere. Is it actually the grandfather, or is it a replica, or is it just a weird coincidence? Because some of the shit he was saying definitely felt very family-oriented, and I have no idea how someone like Rin could fight someone like that if it actually was family or someone close to her. It's hard to say. It would make sense on an evil point of view to take a form of someone who's very powerful, but then again, he's almost acting like he doesn't quite know her, but almost has these memories flooding in. It just kind of feels to me that the craziest shit is yet to come in this show, which is insane to think because we have literally a war taking place that finally ended. But seriously, the sky's looking rather bright for this show, and it doesn't feel like it's letting up. But in terms of like anything else, I mean, the action was pretty good. I mean, Hayato was getting pretty much impaled left and right. And the fact that he cared more about winning rather than finishing it off, it's going to be something that eventually bites his character in the ass. But I mean, good shit, action great. I'm so glad the sister has more importance, and just the Rin revelation with the grandfather has my mind racing, so I'll leave it off for here from now, and we'll jump into the newest episode now. Okay, so this latest episode, which came out I think like way late at night on Monday, was batshit insane. I was excited for sure, and seriously, I mean, at this point, kind of seems like it's confirmed that it was Rin's grandfather, at least that's what she believes. Still a little bit of uncertainty from my point of view, but I mean, given the emotional reaction, she seemingly is buying into that. But I have to say, the way this show reveals information, a majority of the time, they have that speed run where the narrator goes super fast and they fast forward through the technical explanations. But you have to hand it to the show that it does slow it down when it's needed. Gil, as an example, we have a new Idaten, right? And we get the confirmation on why she's so similar to Hayato, right? Because the desire for power is very much different than what the nun was. And I was willing to buy into it just because, well, she had this desire to fight for freedom and change things. But I mean, the nun herself gets called out in this episode that she's useless, and the most useful thing that she could do is to let another person get sleep so she can resume her duties. As we learn this episode, it's a mixture of a couple of things. One, the criteria that got met last week, plus the major wish and the person it's based off of. But two, the person who removes them from that portal. And since Hayato is that person, the nun, the sisters, desire for peace and freedom and to help those in need, mixed with a desire for power, has kind of crafted arguably one of the most perfect gods that you could think of. Someone who wants to help, but also wants to get stronger. And I mean, while we'll probably not get too much into that character this season, it's pretty cool to think about the possibilities, and I'm loving that technical explanation side of things. But I think a majority of this episode was dominated by the homeless demons and what they have to do next. There was some sex, there was some brutality, and ultimately, it was just all of them being separated with no way to communicate, which was pretty frightening from their point of view. If you give a homeless guy a cell phone, saying in 3 hours call this number and get some information, within a matter of minutes, police from a different country will be there to arrest that person. The Edens pretty much are so integrated into human society that they cannot get a jump on them. And it's crazy because for a long time, the comment section, the community in general, has agreed that the way they direct the gods and the way they direct the demons are almost presented in a more human light than the gods themselves. And while yes, we have, moments like with Miku barging into an otaku shut-in's room, has all the information needed, kill them, yeah, there's evilness, don't get me wrong. But there are also plenty of directing choices that definitely make you want to root for the demons sometimes, even though maybe we shouldn't, kind of like that back and forth fight in your own mind. I mean, we get some cool ass confirmation about different characters' abilities. The idea that one is basically a surgeon and can take the face, another kind of has like a Full Metal Alchemist gluttony kind of mouth that can just consume anything in its wake. And then of course you have Miku, who gets off on the idea of getting stabbed repeatedly in the hand because that's just ecstasy and pleasure for her. But watching them all have different ways of trying to counter it, I mean, we obviously have the otaku room, then we have like, oh, we can easily steal money because her hair can go so like simple that people can't see it around them. But then ultimately they get barged in, so they know that they can't go to normal hotels and live in luxury like this one character does. So this man ends up basically banging her, and he clearly hates himself for it, but it's the only way to get the job done. As you have other people who used to be allies, trying to pull guns on them, clearly ended up dead. And just seeing the difference of how they're trying to deal with this situation as clearly Rin, most powerful character, emotional distraught. If there's ever an opportunity to get the jump on these characters, this would be the moment, but they're so separated with no information that they don't have the ability to do so. I mean, the fact that Hayato himself could literally knock her into a wall and insult her and say, snap out of it, and she does nothing. She's in a pretty bad emotional state, and it's going to be exciting to see where the last couple of episodes of this anime will go, because, they're definitely on top, but one wrong move, I mean, the demons could get the jump, and it'll be interesting to see if they can wait it out, if we'll get a time skip of some sort. Hard to say, right? But great episode, really excited for more, and I guess that's where I'll leave it off for now. Different format than usual, but I think it worked out given how I watched them on 2 different days, and rather than trying to remember it off the top of my head. But let me know your thoughts either on the last episode or this current one down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.